a little chilly. We're Ween, and we're gonna play for a little while.
Weencast, a Ween podcast with Rory Gibbons and Shane Prutzman.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Shane.
And this is Rory.
And this is Weencast. And we welcome you to another episode.
Weencast coming back at you.
Yeah, man. We are going to go back in time again tonight, and we are going to talk about a show that we've been talking about a lot, which is 4/20, April 20th, 2000. Rutgers University, the Earth Day Festival.
This is Skelly Field.
Skelly Field. This is a big one. We've been sort of hyping it up and boasting it up for a long time now, and we're just gonna get into it. A couple of shout outs and a couple of side stories we'd like to do before we start talking about this show. I want to give a shout out to a new friend that I've been talking to by the name of Brian, who was really cool enough to make us some new artwork, which is a cool little banner that he made that says Weencast that I uploaded for our Facebook page, and it was just so cool. He's like, I'd like to make you some artwork, and just sent me that. I'm like, dude, that's fucking awesome.
Thanks, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you so much, man. My digital artwork skills sort of ended around like Microsoft Paint, like 1997. So, any kind of artwork that anyone might want to make us would be greatly appreciated, and we'll certainly put to good use, somewhere along the line. And Rory, you have a bit of a tale to tell about the last show that we saw, which was the Philly Met show. Am I right?
Yes, indeed. So we went to the Philly Met show December 14th, as was actually our last podcast, was relaying the events of that show. So I I alluded to it, I mentioned to it briefly in the podcast, but the whole weekend kind of turned into this combined like birthday, Christmas gifts for me and my wife, because both of us have December birthdays, and just with money being tight or whatever as it was, this was like the one special treat that we were doing, was like having this weekend in Philadelphia with this Ween show being like the pinnacle of that weekend. Mm-hmm. And so at the venue, we had they had those the posters, and I think I mentioned in the last podcast that I got one of the ones that was signed by the whole band. Right. And for us, it was really special because I actually don't buy a lot of posters myself, and so it was it's a rare thing for me to be like, oh, okay, I want to spend that money. And so thinking about how special the weekend was for us, it was like, oh, this is cool. So anyway, I get back to Charlottesville and want to get it framed right away, which is going to be a surprise for my wife, because normally we procrastinate and leave them in the tubes for like 10 years, and then we eventually get them framed.
I have a bunch of posters still in the tube. Yeah. So yes, I totally hear that, but go ahead.
So I was like, oh, I'll actually go and get it framed, and I checked, and Michael's had one. They're always running specials, so you find them when they have the good specials, and even though framing is still expensive, then it's at least like a lot cheaper. So I'm dropping off this awesome, poster, and the guy's like, oh, this is cool, and prints out all my paperwork, and he's like, yeah, this isn't going to be ready until January. So I was like, no worries. I wasn't expecting it for actual Christmas, but January 5th rolls around, which was the day that it was supposed to be ready. So I'm just calling in to just check in on it, and the framing manager is just like, yeah, we can't find it. And he was even asking me, he was like, do you have it at your house? like I would have taken it home with me like the day that I dropped it off or something weird.
What?
And it's just like, no, dude, like, you have my poster. Where is it? And he, was basically insisted that they tore the whole place apart and couldn't find it anywhere. And, we're really sorry. So I was obviously rather upset, I'll say. And so, made it very clear to them, that they needed to make it up to us. So they, long story short, they're, trying to track down the copy of the poster. They were like, going to futilely attempt to get the band to sign it. And I'm like, that's not how this works. Like, good luck with that. And then they actually, the district manager called me today and said that they actually found the poster. It was apparently misfiled somewhere in the back of Michael's, and that it's awesome because the story ends well because they're going to reimburse me for the framing, so I get that for free, and I'm getting a second copy of the poster for free as well.
It's not you were telling me earlier. It's not one that's signed by the band, but it's signed by the
No.
artist. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. So the second poster is signed by the artist, not the band, which is cool too because the artist is pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
I apologize for not remembering his name at the moment, but shout out to the artist because it's a cool poster. Cool artwork.
Well,
but yeah, so that was crazy because it was such an up and down, journey, and I despaired that I was ever going to get that poster back, and that I was going to have to settle for something else, and just it was really just ripping me apart inside. And so to have a good resolution is awesome. And so I apparently can pick it up tomorrow. So I'm working out where exactly to hang that in my Ween gallery.
Dude, it's so awesome that they found that. Rory had been telling me for the last couple of weeks that that this happened and that they had told him that they had lost the poster. And I mean, a couple of things. Good on you for sticking it to them and being like, I don't care what you have to do. You're going to have to at least get me another poster and frame it. Because if you would have just been like, oh, well, I guess, accidents happen, they probably wouldn't have done anything. If they could have just, gotten rid of you, they probably would have. And
yeah, I made it very clear to them that it was, not unique, but a fairly limited edition thing.
Yeah.
That had intrinsic value to us.
Right. And, I mean, good on them for, standing by, taking care of you and, putting you through that trouble of, oh my God, I might have just lost this poster, which is, I mean, it's not necessarily one of a kind, but I mean, how many of those could they have made and then had the band sign 100? You know what I mean? That's,
I don't know. It can't be too many.
That's going to be a pretty rare thing, in the future. That's for sure. It's probably something you couldn't even find now, or, maybe somebody that bought one might want to sell one, but I mean, that's going to be.
Well, they hadn't seen any of that actual signed poster online, at least as of last week. I hadn't seen any. So
yeah, I know. I think I did a quick eBay search the one day that we were talking about it too, and I didn't even see one, a regular one. Not one that was even signed by the band or anything. So that's awesome that they found it and that they're going to hook you up with a free framing. So that's a good savings right there, and good ending to it.
So that's good. They're making amends.
Yeah, totally.
Which is good. I'm really thankful that they found it because the alternative was basically that someone that worked there stole it or something. And so that would just be a terrible thing to think. How can you ever trust them to ever frame anything for you again? So I'm glad that it turned out that it was just misplaced and that they found it and all is well.
Right. Good end to the story.
Yes, good end for the story. Happy New Year, everybody.
Okay. So, like we said, we've been kind of boasting up this show for a long time, but the 420 show is just something that we've always just sort of gone back to in our discussions about Ween and about going to see Ween in our past and the great shows that we saw over the years. Rutgers 420 has just always been one that, like, we just kept coming back to, and we still do to this day. You know, like, if we're talking about a show that just happened a couple of weeks ago or something like that, I mean, I still might even be like, but was it better than 420? You know, I still think about that in my mind, you know, the current Ween shows, you know, the ones that we just saw within the last, you know, year or two. I had mentioned in the past when we had brought this up that I consider it to be like a real BCAD kind of show. So what does that mean? You know, what do I mean by that? So I was thinking about this, and it may just be something that's in my mind, and when I think back on the shows that we had gone to, you know, this is, I didn't even count them, but this is like our 7th, 8th show, something like that. And all the shows that we had seen up until this point, it's like everyone was a unique experience, a fun time, a great concert, you know, more fun than the last one, basically. And maybe it's just that we had seen them so many times at this point or whatever. This show happens. It's absolutely amazing, and we're going to get into, you know, everything that we can remember about it and then some on this podcast. And then the shows that we had gone to, you know, after that, you know, I'm not going to say they were bad or, you know, I don't think there's really such thing as like a bad Ween show, you know what I mean? But this was sort of like a high water mark, you know, at the band's time in their career at this point, the late 90s, early 2000s. This show is of like a culmination.
This show is the quintessential representation of the band as a live performance during that time period. The pre-Quebec time period where you had the current formation of the band. You know, like, and not just Quebec when it actually was released, but also when they started to play the Quebec songs. You know, like, this is still like, White Pepper era. So that time period, like, truly a high water mark. But also, as you said, we haven't seen every show, and so there's plenty of shows that we haven't seen. But time and again, when I think about all the shows that we've seen, it really keeps coming back to this one as just, it's really hard to find anything wrong with this show, honestly.
Yeah.
There's a perfect confluence of, I don't want to get into everything detailed now because we're just getting started, but like, it's a perfect confluence of just the evening, the atmosphere, the company, the vibe the band was putting out, the song, the set lists, the actual performances, everything of the venue, everything about it just came together and just produced, like, so there's nothing bad. No, there's not like a bad memory about it. There's not really a time where it's like, oh, what happened there? Everything worked perfectly, and there's so many perfectly brown moments, and then there's so many perfectly beautiful moments, and also just hard rock, just everything. It's really like, if you're gonna give anyone like like, hey, here's live Ween, you might as well just give them this show.
Yeah.
Just give them a copy of this show, and say, this is live Ween, and it's really gonna basically be the best representation of that you can have, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, from what we've actually seen. And I want to distinguish that maybe a little bit from, like, yes, there's sort of produced live recordings and stuff and whatnot out there. I'm definitely really speaking, one of the things that our podcast is all about is, like, the shows that we've been to and our experiences.
Right.
So speaking of the world of all the shows I've been to, man, you can't find a show that just hits it on all the levels like this one does.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. well put. I mean, that's kind of what I mean when I say, like, you know, a BCAD kind of thing. It's like before 420 and after 420. I mean, I remember, you know, talking to you, Rory, on the phone, you know, for years about, you know, the different shows that we had been to and whatnot. And it's just like, okay, can we do like a top 5? And it was always like, you know, okay, Rutgers. You know, Rutgers 420 was always in there. You know, I mean, that was just always part of the discussion, you know, no matter what.
I feel like we would disagree between number 5 and through number 2, but both of us would always just say what Rutgers is number 1.
Yeah, right. You know, it's like you couldn't even really like argue it. You know, it's like Rutgers is like undisputably number 1. You know, but anyway, we're gonna get into the whole thing. So why don't we start with some of our memories of getting to the show, and Rory, why don't you start, because you guys actually came to pick me up. So how did you were coming from State College?
Yeah. Well, my first question was, do you remember how we heard about the show? Like, how that all went down?
You know, I was just thinking about that the other day too, and I don't. I mean, it must have been on their website, or, you know, somewhere online that we had seen, you know.
Undoubtedly, at this point, 2000, you gotta. There's the websites out there. It must have been on Choco Dog or something.
It might have actually been the first one of the year, because if you look at Brown Base, this might have been the first show of the year that they actually sort of like advertised, because there's a couple of other ones that came before this, like the Sterling Hotel in Allentown. You know, that's such a small place. You know, like that might not have even been like announced like online. And if you just found out about it or whatever, then hey, great. You know, those shows like that are like those like warm-up shows that have happened like before, you know, like a bigger show like this or something. I don't know. I don't remember. But, you know, somehow we found out about it. It must have either been on their website or something that we saw, but I'm assuming that would have been it.
Yeah. So at any rate, I was up in State College at the time, and this would have been the spring semester at Penn State. Probably, I admit to being an irresponsible college student that term, and I'm pretty sure that it was just like, it was a Thursday, whatever, I'm out, and I just like took the day off and did this. I didn't have a car. I desperately wanted to go to this show because at this point I'm just a broke bum of a college student, but the show is free, you know, and that's the first little kernel of like, what do we have here this evening of Earth Day? You know, and it's like, wow, this is a free show. And so I figured, you know what? I will be able to sell my friends on this show. You know, like I have friends who like listening to Ween, and if they hear that this is free, we will be able to put this together. So, you know, I'm putting it up to my friends, and I got to give shout outs. The crew from State College was Jesse, John, and Evan, and I haven't been able to get a hold of Evan. Evan, if you're out there on Facebook, then I apologize. Last I heard, you're kind of off the grid and hard to get a hold of. But I apologize if that's not the case. But Jesse and John actually got back to me. We kind of chatted a little bit back and forth about the show, and that was kind of cool because I hadn't talked to either of those guys in a long time. And this is 2000, so right, this is like 19 years ago. Holy cow!
Yeah.
And so I had talked to those guys, you know, more recently than that, but it's been a long time because I don't live in that area and I've moved around a lot and stuff like that. So it was cool and confirming some of the details. But yeah, so I'm just trying to round up people in the morning, and so Jesse had his van, this green Ford Astro van, and then, you know, John came with us, and then we grabbed Evan, and you know, Evan is just kind of like, he's just a guy you always want to have along on a trip like this. And if it's free, Evan, the thing about Evan, especially back then, if it was free, it was all good. And so we had the crew, and we came down from State College, and we had arranged, you know, this is still pre cell phones, at least cell phones for us. I didn't have a cell phone. Maybe
I didn't have
maybe
a cell
you
phone.
did.
Oh, no way.
But and so so we arranged to meet you at a certain time, and at a gas station outside of Hamburg, and I'll let you get into more details on that in a minute. But I do remember we got stuck in some kind of traffic jam on 78 east of Harrisburg. I don't know what it was. It's not like you have your Google map to look at and say, was there an accident ahead? So I think it was an accident. So something. It was just a lot of traffic, and we didn't know what it was. It was just like unending. So I don't even remember if did we have to call you or something to let you know we were running late? Because I was wondering, did someone else have a phone, or did we not have to call, and were we that early, like leaving State College, that the delay didn't matter? Because we definitely got stuck in traffic for I'm going to say 45 minutes to an hour.
Man,
and it was by this chicken farm. There was chickens everywhere.
I don't know. I mean, I think, you had probably just told me, or we figured out a good place that wasn't too far off the highway. It was Route 61, which, from where it intersects with 78 to where you guys picked me up is probably 15 minutes, something like that. And I don't know if if you just said okay, we'll be there between this time and this time, and I just went and just waited for you guys to show up. I don't really remember, but I just remember okay, I'll be there. As long as you guys can tell me that you're definitely coming, and you can, I can hop in the van and come with you. I'll wait for you. I'll be there for whenever you can get there. I don't really remember, but
yeah,
it is possible that I waited there for an hour for you guys to show up. But I was happy to do it. You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
If I can hop in and get a ride with you guys, I'm down. I'll wait. But
importantly, we weren't late for the show. So importantly,
yeah, right.
We definitely made the show on time.
Right. I mean, I don't really remember you guys being late to get me or anything like that, but it's possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, and it's a fabulous little anecdote about the year 2000. And you're
yeah.
All right, man, we're about 4 hours away if there's no traffic problems. We'll meet you at that gas station in 4.5 hours. And it's and then you just go there and you're waiting for the man, it's like the Velvet Underground. You're we're just waiting for the man, and you can't do anything about it. But no, that's great. But yeah, so anyway, so we swung by, we got off at Hamburg and picked you up at Sheetz.
Yeah,
I believe.
Sheetz on 61. One of the things I remember very clearly is I was okay, so I'll take along, at this point I've got a decent enough collection of CDs and cassettes, Ween, bootleg shows on CD and cassette. You know what I mean? I didn't have as many on cassette, but I had, 2 or 3 or whatever. And, I've said this before on our podcast, but those back then were kind of hard to come by. You know what I mean? You had to get someone to make you a copy of it and mail it to you in the mail and, or whatever. So those were, I'm thinking okay, I got the bootlegs, I'll hook them up, I'm down, I'll blow these guys' minds when I get into the car and be yeah, you heard this fucking Ween show? You're about to, and, I was okay, well, I don't know what the van has in it. Does it have a CD player? Does it have a tape deck? Either way, I can blow these guys' minds. You know what I mean? And, you guys pulled in and were saying hello and hey, what's up? What's going on, guys? I'm what's in the van, CD or cassette? And it was neither, just radio. And I was what the fuck, man? You gotta be kidding me.
You didn't see that coming.
I did not see that coming at all. So it's well, there goes that great idea,
The Astro van was good enough.
Yeah, right.
So it got us there and it got us home.
And I remember your friend Evan, and I had only met these guys maybe once or twice before, twice at the most. I think those other guys I probably only met one time before this. But your friend Evan's a tall, skinny dude who had made a t-shirt which was like it went like top down. It was like the Boognish, and then a plus, like underneath it was a plus sign, and then 420, and then equals, this is all going up and down, equals heart. Like Boognish plus 420 equals heart. And I was like, oh man.
He may have made that in the car on the way down.
Okay. Yeah, so, but I thought that was great. I was like, man, I should have made a shirt. Like, what the fuck? So.
No, Evan's great, a great old friend. That the first time I ever met him, when it was like, hey, Evan, this is Rory, Evan. He was like, the first thing out of his mouth was, "What's your favorite Ween album?"
What?
And so, yeah, no, it was totally like he cut right to the chase. He had been told that I'm a big Ween head. He had been told that I'm a big Ween head.
Yeah. Cool.
And so that was the first thing he ever asked me, was like, "What's your favorite album?"
That's awesome.
And I think at the time I probably did like the cool thing and was like, "The Pod."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Right on," But
that's cool.
But yeah, no, he had a homemade shirt, getting in the spirit of things. I'm pretty sure we were a ragtag crew. I don't think we barely had money for gas, I think. Like, that's why it was so important that it was a free show. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, it's not like we had any money for concessions. We just like barely had enough to get us down there.
Right. I remember that I had worn shorts, and it was kind of like one of those things I had to like debate because this is the end of April. Like, it's still cold. I think it was sort of boasted as like a spring show or whatever, but it's like, if you stop and think about it, it's like it's not warm yet, like in the month of April. You know what I mean? So I remember being like,
it can be a cold month. It can be a cold month.
Yeah. So I remember like sort of like debating like to myself, like, do I wear the shorts or not? And I was like, fuck it, I'm wearing the shorts. And I remember one of the other guys was like, oh, you wore shorts like I was going to. And I'm like, yeah. And I specifically remembered my reasoning for wearing shorts was, if I get cold, fuck it. That was it. That was my logic behind wearing the shorts that night. And, just like going all in, like, that's right, I got the shorts.
I love that it was like a point of conversation. It was like,
yeah,
my crew loved you when they showed, like, you were, I think they may have met you briefly before or whatever, but not that they remembered you. So meeting you was almost like mystical. It was like, oh, we're picking up Shane. Oh, we got to get off at the Hamburg exit and pick Shane up at a gas station. Like, what's that? Like, it was like, oh, your other buddy who's really into Ween. They were like, oh.
Yeah,
so it was
awesome.
kind of mystical picking you up, and then suddenly you're like, bringing CDs and cassettes for radio and or just wearing shorts on like a chilly, cold day.
I think
it was chilly and cold.
Yeah, it was, and they mentioned that during the show.
And breezy. It was breezy.
Yeah, they mentioned that during the show. You can hear them talking about that. I think also I had one of the Ween shirts that I had ordered, like from the website, which was I loved that shirt. It was a green shirt with just the Boognish in the middle. It had no writing on it. It didn't even say Ween. It was just like the symbol in like a yellow, green, and red like color. I think they called it like the superhero, and it was they made it in green, and then I think later on in blue. But I had like the green, like an army green. Had nothing on the back. I think I wore that too, and I think at the time it was pretty new. Like, I think it was the kind of thing that, you hadn't really seen around a whole lot yet. Because like as soon as I saw that like on the website, I was like, oh, I want one of those, and bought it like immediately. So I think I might have worn that night too. I can't remember that specifically, but I think I did. But yeah, so then we were on our way, and basically to get to Rutgers from like, that area, basically you're going like past Allentown. Am I right? Like you're going east.
I think you just keep following 78 east, and eventually in New Jersey you get on the turnpike or something.
Right. So you got to go through like the Lehigh Valley, or like past like the Lehigh Valley area, and then you're
as I recall
getting into like New Jersey. I don't really
It's
remember
kind of
any.
smack in the middle of Jersey.
Yeah, I don't really remember anything about like parking the car or anything like that. Do you?
No, I mean it was a university, but it was like the agricultural fields. So I'm pretty sure that wasn't like a big deal. It was just like, park. I don't even know if we even had to pay to park. Someone can confirm that out there, but
I don't think that we did. I don't remember if like they just had us park like in a field or like we just found like a space on like a street somewhere or something. I don't really remember that part of it. But somehow I just remember finding it like no problem. Like next thing you know, we were there and it was like, okay, this is the crowd and we're here and it's about to start. And it's like perfect.
Yeah, it was a free show on Earth Day, and all the Ween heads were going to descend upon Skelly Field.
Right.
Like Rutgers University, you are going to have Ween guests.
I don't even think that I knew that it was like a festival, and that Juliana Hatfield was like the opening act for Ween, and I guess some smaller acts.
Yeah, we got
her.
there, and it was, I think, during her performance. I don't remember any of the other bands, and I didn't know much about her at the time or anything.
I don't even.
So yeah, I was basically just going because it was Ween.
I don't remember like anybody else even being on. Like I just remember like waiting for Ween to come on. I mean, maybe
I remember there being someone up there playing as we were like sort of wandering about, and there wasn't a very big crowd yet. The crowd was kind of up by the stage, and so you could get away from it, and we were just, maybe you were throwing frisbee or something. Oh man, that's a memory. I seem to remember us playing, doing some hippie games further out from the stage, waiting for the concert to get started.
That's very possible. That kind of rings a bell. But yeah, I don't remember. Like I don't remember the opening act. I do remember waiting for Ween to come on and kind of like crowding up. We had gotten a pretty decent spot in the field.
Yeah, I was figuring we were like 10, 12, 15, something like that. Like
yeah, I was just gonna say maybe like 10 people deep from the stage.
Yeah, it was never like a mosh pit and never super crowded, which was one of the great things about the show, that everyone had space. But yeah, we were so we were close, but not too close.
Right. And I remember, them like Junior and Diener hadn't come out yet, but Dave was on stage, and this is before anything had happened, and he was doing something with like the gear or like the amp or something, and like getting his shit like set up. And at this point, I know all their names, and I know that his name is Dave, and so I'm just like, Dave, right? No reaction. So I just kept doing it. I was just like, Dave, and maybe like the third or fourth like yell, he like looks up like, is somebody yelling for me? Like, is that meant for me? And looks out, sees that it's me. I'm just a dude in the crowd, and like he totally was just like, what the fuck do you want? But he was really cool about it, and he just kind of smiled and like nodded, and I just kind of like waved and was just like, yeah, like Dave. Yeah.
Dave really is the best. I love Dave.
Yeah, he does. I've met him a couple of times throughout the years, and like he was always nice to me, and he seems like a really nice guy and everything. But it was just like one of those things I remember just being a fucking idiot, just being like, Dave, like, yeah, dude.
Well, you got to give him a shout out. That's totally legit.
Give Dave some fucking love, But that's pretty much the only thing I remember, like, before them actually, like, coming out and starting.
Yeah, no, I'm with
Dave
you. Like,
shit.
we just got kind of into position, and, you could tell they were getting things warmed up, so you knew that Ween was coming on soon. The last, opening act got out of there, and, yeah, we were in the middle of the crowd, like, and it was interesting because early on there weren't a lot of people by the stage, and I think people really started to show up when the show started, and by the end of it, or in the middle of it or whatever, I think it was, quite a bit of people, but there weren't too many at first. But being in the middle, it was kind of nice because I just remember like being somewhat insulated from the cold, and it wasn't so bad because we were in the middle of everyone. So when the breezes came through, like it didn't really hit us as bad.
Yeah,
because we were
totally.
in the middle of all the people.
Yeah,
and
totally.
and by the end of it, I swear there were like warm breezes, or maybe that was just like euphoria, like just enjoying a good show. But like it was interesting, but like later on, it felt like it was like warming up, and maybe it was just being in the crowd.
Yeah, it was just. Being in the crowd just kind of kept you just warm enough that, like, you wouldn't get cold, basically.
Yeah.
I remember that, too. And also, we probably should have mentioned this earlier, I do remember that this is April 20th, like we had said, 4/20, and White Pepper would be released on May 2nd. And at this point, like, we knew... White Pepper we knew the new Ween album was coming in.
And we had heard many of the songs at previous shows as well.
Right. We had heard a bunch of the shows, but a bunch of the songs at the other shows, but now it was finally like, yes, the new Ween album is coming, and it's coming soon. You know what I mean? Like, we knew the date. Like, I remember knowing, like, oh, it wasn't like the following week, but it was the week after that. So, and I remember, like, talking to some people and, oh, yeah, the new album's coming out and blah, blah, blah. So this was sort of like probably like a show to start promoting the new album.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, man, should we get into the set list, or is there anything else that you can remember?
No, I think so far that's a great summation of how we got there and how it all began. So you want me to go ahead and read the set list?
Yeah, man, do it.
Cool. So, hold on to your socks. So they Freedom of 76, Nan, Take Me Away, The Grobe, Spinal Meningitis, Roses Are Free, What Diener Was Talking About, Bananas and Blow, Voodoo Lady, with Prince's Kiss as an interlude, and then The Mollusk, Back to the Basin, Even If You Don't, Up on the Hill, Dr. Rock, Stroker Ace, Mr. Richard Smoker, Puerto Rican Power, Waving My Dick in the Wind, Fat Lenny, Pandy Fackler, Spring Theme, Sorry Charlie, oh my god, Laura, Ice Castles, The Golden Eel, the set list keeps going. They tease Mononucleosis, they don't actually play it. Tender Situation, Reggae Junkie Jew finishes up the main set, and then the encore is I Can't Put My Finger on It, Buckingham Green, Birthday Boy, and Poop Ship Destroyer.
Hell yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Poop Ship Destroyer.
One of the things that I remember thinking, like, after this show happened and we were, like, on the way home and whatnot, and, like, I still believe this, like, throughout the years, when they play, like, a college, they know it's okay to, like, get weird with it. And, like, you can't tell me that they weren't, like, okay, it's fucking Rutgers University, it's cool, it's all fucking college kids, like, they're gonna be cool with some fucking weird shit. You know what I mean? And they just lay it down, not to skip right to, some of the fucking really brown shit, but, like, Spring Theme. Laura. Tender Situation, like... I still, to this day, believe, like, when you go back and you look at the shows where they play, like, a college, we've been to a few of them over the years, not just this one, it's like, this shit's gonna get fucking brown. You know what I mean?
Well, it's at a college. It's an outdoor venue. Like, an open outdoor venue. Like, really chill and open. It wasn't just an outdoor venue, but, like, in a big, like, like, amphitheater. This is just, like, they put, like, a... Yeah. Tractor trailer bed on like a field or something, and there's like they had a little trailer was what they went into for like their breaks.
Snipply. So we're Ween, and okay, in the middle of the field, in the middle of the agricultural field here.
Yeah.
Like a tractor trailer, like back, like
Yeah.
not a regular trailer. Like, and that was just like right off the stage. It was like just plopped down there in the middle of the field, an outdoor show, and on Earth Day, 420. I mean, all those things combined together, and it was just the perfect vibe and the perfect energy for everything to go just right, and it does. They are having a great time. It's funny because Jeaner's wearing these shades, and he he finds them on his amp, I guess.
Found these shades on my amp. They're pretty cool. Yeah. I know, man. Especially with these shades on.
But he kind of, is just up there ambling around all the time like Jeaner does, and so with the button-up shirt he's wearing and the sunglasses, he just sort of looks like a blind guy, like stumbling around, like trying to find his way without his cane. Like, it's really like, it's funny. Like, take a look at the video again, and it's funny. He just looks like he's blind. And that reminds me, shout out to the Stallion Mang, because that was a good YouTube video of the concert, which we're referring to for our content here.
Yeah, I remember getting this show on CD, the audio of it, and then I think a little bit later getting I don't think I had gotten a DVD of it until like a few years later, but I think I had this on like VHS tape, like a video of it. And there's a really cool YouTube video, which is actually like someone had put like two bootleg videos together, and I'm pretty sure that's the one that we've been going back and watching. It's just, the Stallion Mang is the YouTuber who uploaded it, and that's really cool. That's the other thing about this show is like it was recorded, and like the recordings of it are really good.
Yeah, they're actually quite good quality, if I do say so, to everyone doing it. So shout out to everyone involved. But like,
and you would think for like a show that's just in the middle of like the field like that, like you might not get like a good recording of it, but that's not the case. This is a badass recording. Like the bootleg audio from it is great, and the videos that were made of it are also really cool.
Yeah, my original, the copy I got was from you making me a bootleg of a bootleg, and the CDs we had, that became like the Ween Bible. Like I would make that and give it to my friends and be like, this is what you should listen to,
Right.
And it became like an instant classic that I keep uploaded on my computer. I got the discs. It's like, it became an instant classic. Like, this would be the live show that it would be like, play it while we're driving around. Like, this is what I want to share if I'm going to share Ween with you.
Yeah, totally.
So, just they laid it out on like every track, and it's loud, and they're just rocking. They from front to back, they find a way to jam almost every song, and pretty furiously, and all the energy. I know sometimes we talk a little bit about recent shows, and I think you mentioned the last show, you sometimes can tell when they're like, just on autopilot or something. And in this show, there's no sense that there's nothing but like full energy engaged in like performing these at the highest level. And so I think it shows, man. I think it shows.
Yeah.
That I think will come out in some of the conversations we have about some of these songs. So one of the cool things, there's all sorts of great banter in a show like this. Jeaner comes right out in like a typical Gene fashion. He's just, hi, we're Ween. We're going to play for a little while. For a while, just like a classic Jeaner quote. But Freedom of 76 is an awesome way to start a show, especially in the Philly area. I know Rutgers is like, kind of in between Philly and New York. I don't know exactly what allegiance they have. So I don't mean any offense if they're all about New York and they hate Philadelphia. But it's not all that far from Philly. And so for me being a Philly guy, Philly area guy, I think you start with Freedom of 76 on Earth Day in the general Philadelphia region. I think you can't do any better than that to start a show.
Right. Yeah, they ease into it, and that's a great way to sort of like warm things up. And then they bust out Nan, which is the shit. And one of the things I notice when I go back and listen to this bootleg is there's a lot of great keyboard on this show. There's a lot of great keys, as I say, if I'm being cool about it. And like, Nan has a lot of great keyboard. It's like something that just like jumps out actually.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And there's a lot of little things that you could sort of pick up during this show that you might not be able to in other shows, like something like that. Like the keyboards on Nan. Same thing with Take Me Away,
Yeah, dude. Well, so Take Me Away, all of these songs, they're just like, first off, these are some high energy songs, right? And you got Take Me Away, which I think is an overlooked song on Chocolate and Cheese that they just totally jam it out at this show. Like really get into it. There's we're going to play a few clips this evening to try to bring the show alive to you. And there's this moment where Dave's kind of like slapping the bass, man, and Jeaner like gives him a bit of a shout out, and Dave's just kind of jamming, and then Diener goes right into like this cool really spacey jam in the middle of Take Me Away. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. David Trowitz, please, Jim. Up a little bit there.
So yeah, you got Dave there slapping the bass, and then Diener just jamming out on Take Me Away.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely getting into it like early, and it's like you from the start of the show that it's it's no joke tonight. It's no joke. This shit is gonna be fucking real tonight. So after Take Me Away, you got The Grove. There's a cool little quote in there after The Grove. I think somebody must be yelling for something, and Jeaner is just like, "We got it all tonight," which I like a I love the...
Which is a true statement.
Yeah, right. It's a very true statement, yeah.
That was called The Grove on Earth Day. We got it all tonight. We got it all. We're here.
And then
that's one of the things that impresses me about this show is that almost literally like everything's on like everything's represented at this show. You know, like they managed to get it all. Like we got it all tonight.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's very true. It's very true. And then so Spinal has got a sweet jam also.
Yeah, well, let's play a little bit of Spinal Meningitis, and here. Yeah, I mean, that's fantastic. Diener, he's bending over really low. He's playing, the guitar is almost melting into the ground at his feet.
Yeah. If you're actually watching the video, you can see Diener is going to work during that one. You know, he's really bending it over. And then,
but yeah, no, but it speaks to this show. Like every song that they play at this show, they just like amp up to the next level. Like everyone has, whether it's a short or a long jam, has some kind of like intense jam where you feel like they're putting all of their energy into it.
Oh, absolutely.
And so that's just another great example.
Okay, so after Spinal, you got Roses Are Free, which is always sweet. What Diener was talking about kind of slows it down a little bit. And then we had mentioned that at this point we know that White Pepper is coming out. I think it's not actually the week after this, but the week after. So it's like 2 weeks later. But you know, like I remember knowing like as a fan, like, oh, the new record is coming out. And Diener actually does mention it. It's like, this is from our new record that comes out next week. So that's not exactly right. I'm pretty sure it was the week after that. But he's talking about Bananas in Blood.
We're going to play some tropical shit here. This is a song off our record. It's coming out like this week, I think. It's called Bananas and Blow.
Which we had heard, I think maybe like once before this, maybe twice. It wasn't played, I don't think, as many times up until now as like The Grove and Back to Bassum. I think we had heard it at least once before. I'd have to go back and look at my set list, but...
we definitely heard it before.
Yeah, we had heard it at least once before. But I don't think they had broken it out quite as many times as some of the other White Pepper stuff before, White Pepper came out.
No, and this is another great example. So I know when we talk about shows that are more recent, one of the things that I think we mentioned before that the last show was how great the show was, but how sometimes you could just see that they were sort of just going through the numbers, kind of. I'm trying not to be disrespectful when I say that, but
no, I know what you mean.
But this back in 2000, it's like playing Bananas and Blow before the album actually comes out, and it's just like feels like they're just putting everything into it, and there's just like a lot of like energy, positive energy going into the music, a lot of care in every moment. There's a great Diener solo in Bananas and Blow that we should feature. He's just like making that guitar moan, really a la Santana. Was when re-listening to this album, this show, it just strikes me as a Diener, must owe a lot of influence to someone like Santana.
Yeah, that's got some Santana shit going on in it. Absolutely, yeah, man. So then after Bananas and Blow, and okay. So this is usually a pretty played out statement, but, fucking Voodoo Lady, okay? But there's a twist with this show. So obviously, by this time it's like, okay, well, the Voodoo Lady is an amazing jam and everything. We say that on all of our episodes when we're talking about whatever show we're talking about. But for this show, this is one that, like, we will forever, like, sort of go back to when seeing Ween after this in the future. You agree with that, Rory?
This is probably one of the great, sort of moments of seeing Ween live, like, that I can think of.
Yeah.
It's like one of the quintessential moments of what you can get when you go to a live Ween show.
Right.
And
right.
So yeah, to me, the version of Voodoo Lady that they do at this show is like the ultimate version of Voodoo Lady.
So
like, if this is what I'd play if someone says, "Oh, what song is that, Voodoo Lady?"
Yeah. I mean, first of all, you got the intro. So, Diener is on the talk box, which I always just refer to as the tube. I still don't understand how the tube works, but basically it's a thing that it's like it's a separate microphone that has the tube on it. And while Diener is playing guitar, you either blow air into the tube or suck air out of the tube. I still, to this day, don't understand it. But it's badass.
A la Peter Frampton.
Yeah, right. Peter Frampton shit, we're talking about here. So
you make the guitar talk, man.
His guitar is talking, man. So he just starts off with the intro. I mean, immediately it's just like, wow, and it's, it's a tube. It's like, oh shit, he's on the tube immediately, just with doing the intro to fucking Voodoo Lady. So that's the first part.
Again, Diener's saying we got it all tonight,
Yeah, this is.
I mean,
they got it all.
Yeah, we can play a little bit of that.
Yeah, so play the fucking intro.
Yeah, you knew the stuff was getting brown. You knew it was getting brown.
Right. So now we're really starting to get into like a whole new sort of thing here, you know? So you got a sweet fucking jam, you know, as usual with Voodoo Lady. Some more Diener intensity, which we can play a little bit of that as we're talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's just Diener getting really low to the ground on that one.
Yeah,
Needless to say.
So once again, Diener is fucking rocking it out. But then, something we had not heard before. And you may not hear them do this ever again. We don't know. I think I may have heard this happen one time after this in all the shows that I had been to. So Diener just fucking busts into fucking Prince. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
And
Kiss.
I think they had done, when looking at Brown Bass, I think they might have done this like once or twice before this night. So it's not the very first time that it's ever happened, but it's certainly the first time that we ever saw it happen. And I mean, it's just so fucking sick. I mean, you know, you don't have to be rich to be my Voodoo Lady. I mean, you know, what else can you say?
Oh, it's great. It's great, and it's pretty seamless how
it it's so smooth.
goes in and out. So we let's play a little bit of that for you. And the crowd starts cheering as soon as he starts singing.
I love how it's like it's what you would typically, you know, if you're really like listening to like the Voodoo Lady jam, you know, like the live version of Voodoo Lady, and like you're really like getting it down and like how it goes and stuff. It's they sneak in Kiss like while they would be like wrapping it up. You know, like it almost is like this is the part where they bring it back to, you know, but instead they just bust out fucking Prince. You know what I mean? So you seriously just do not see it coming. You know, but it's so smooth and it's just so beautiful. And every time I listen to that track from this show, I just love it. You know, puts a smile on my face every time and gets me fucking grooving every time, even, you know, all these years later. I love it. Amazing,
yeah, no, it's great. And
amazing live.
An amazing nod to Prince, and you know, the kind of music that influences the likes of Diener and Ween.
Hell yeah.
So it's awesome, and we've and they've done Prince before at shows when we went to see them on the New Year's Day show in Philly. Party Like It's 1999.
Right.
So that's what's interesting is like there's just this like Prince undercurrent sometimes. And so that was the case here, but really just an amazing sort of Ween moment.
Yeah, so it's like, again, we don't want to just keep saying, okay, Voodoo Lady is a standout, but for this show, it really was. It really was. So yeah, just a great fucking jam, Voodoo Lady. Then you got the Mollusk, amazing song, but kind of standard. Back to Bassum, which again is still new, still considered a new song, and then Even If You Don't. So same thing with Even If You Don't. I think we might have heard that maybe like once before. That's another White Pepper track that was new, and I don't think they played that one quite as many times either. Again, I'm not looking at Brown Bass and I'm not looking at the numbers, while we're doing this, but I think we might have heard that like once before, not as many times as the Grove or Back to Bassum. So, that's another fucking sick jam, Even If You Don't.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, and I think it was played about 15 times before that. Not nearly as many times as Back to Bassum and some of the other ones.
Right. We might have actually seen that live, I think maybe once.
From White Pepper, the upcoming album.
Right. So I think there's a sweet guitar solo.
Once again, Diener gravitating, toward the ground is the visual that's always like a corollary as like some kind of sick jam. And that's once again, dude. It's like every song at this show, they're just like laying it on the line on every song.
Yeah, and this being a new song, it's like it already has this kind of fucking sick shit in it. I mean, yeah, I know that's basically just like how this song goes, but it already has a fucking sick ass, guitar solo in it like that. Hell yeah, So, we'll take it.
Yeah, dude, and then follow that up with Up on the Hill, which is one of the really rare sort of songs that we saw at this show. Yeah, I think 34 times total.
So now
including after, of all time, 34 times played. So really rare.
So now you're starting to get into like what else this night is going to unravel. And that is some really rare shit and some really fucking brown shit. And that's definitely one of them, Up on the Hill. I mean, we definitely had never seen that before.
No, and I don't think it's probably not since.
Yeah, right. So that's a real quick little ditty, but just a real rare, awesome tune that they throw in there.
Yeah, so let's give you a little taste of that, since you don't hear that too often.
my mama told me. She said, Gina, I want to smell it. And she smelled it, and it was smelling. She said, go, go, go.
So that's God, Ween, Satan, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and so, it's just going all the way back. We got it all tonight.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's definitely something we did not see coming, And again, maybe heard one other time after that. That was it, if that. So you got some other rockin' tunes after that. Dr. Rock, which I always love. And then another new song for the time, Stroker Ace. And this has got Jeaner on the megaphone, which I don't think they really stuck with for all that long. After that. But for this early rendition of Stroker Ace, it was Jeaner on the megaphone, which sounds
Oh, yeah,
awesome.
This is only the 8th time it was ever played live. And it's been played over 200 times. So this is an early Stroker Ace.
Yeah, this one again is, an early rendition of what would become a standard. Stroker Ace, I mean, that really got played a lot, after these sort of first few shows.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want me to lay that one down?
Yeah. Hey everybody, this is Shane from Weencast. Hey, I'm sorry to cut the episode short, but Rory and I decided to make this a 2-part episode, so you have to look forward to part 2. We'll talk about the rest of the show, and we'll talk about our memories from after the show and looking back on the 420 show. We also have some really cool stories that we had gotten from listeners and other people who were at the 420 show that we were really happy and psyched about getting. In the meantime, check us out on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher. Please drop a comment on iTunes, write a review, subscribe. It's fun, it's free. Anybody that you know that uses iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher, suggest the show to them. Hit us up on Twitter. It's at Weencast Podcast on Twitter. Hit us up on Facebook. There's a Facebook page and a Facebook group that's open to join. Hit us up on YouTube. Drop a comment on YouTube or just email us. It's weencastpodcast@gmail.com. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you so much to anybody who's listened to part 1. And please stick around as part 2 is coming soon. Thank you so much. Peace out.